the Honorable Nolan Cox, and he will update us on the status of projects. He will give us a progress report on the Transport Commission, and he'll also talk about the situation regarding vendors at the stadium. So without any further ado, I will hand you over to the Honorable Minister. Good morning.
Pleasant morning, Leslie, and also pleasant morning to listeners, viewers of Post Cabinet Briefing this morning. Let me take this opportunity to say Happy New Year as well. I think we have been blessed with a couple of showers starting the year, so I just want to recognize that. I know we give thanks for everything, so it's a pleasure to be here. This morning, as you indicated, I wanted to start off looking at the Ministry of Infrastructure. As you know, we at the Ministry of Infrastructure, we have a very important task ahead of us for this fiscal cycle. And the government of Grenada has indicated that infrastructure as one of the main priority areas in pushing this economy going forward for 2021 as we recover from the COVID pandemic. And so we thought it very important that we use the opportunity to keep the public updated as we move forward with some of those important PSIP projects, and also to indicate what we intend to do in terms of transport as we transition into the new commission, Transport Commission, and other matters relating to government business as well. This morning, we wanted to start off with a very important project, that is a breakwater project, where we have some coastal erosion issues up at St. Patrick's. And we have been working with a number of persons there who have been significantly affected. We have approximately 8 families who have been directly affected, while the whole constituency is affected in some way. Just 8 families who have directly impacted by this coastal degradation taking place in St. Patrick's. The government, we have responded swiftly to address this matter. We currently have engaged a coastal engineering company who will come in very soon, hopefully within the next 2 to 3 weeks, to conduct a study. The study will take approximately three months to complete, and thereafter we expect to implement work in terms of final response to that coastal erosion. Most importantly, we are working, we are advancing, we are looking at doing some remedial work to stay whatever coastal degradation that is taking place currently. So the Ministry of Infrastructure is working on that. Added to that, the 8 families who are impacted, there is a recommendation that these homes, these families should be relocated. And so we have, through the cabinet, took a decision to provide support, financial support for those 8 families or persons who will be required to relocate. So we are happy with that, and we are working closely with the parliamentary reps in the St. Patrick's area to have this matter addressed quickly. As regards to the company the coastal engineering company, we have forward to the procurement board for no objection for the company to commence work soon. So we are waiting a response from the procurement board in that regard. So this is one of the most important projects that we are working on right now in terms of ensuring that those persons in the St. Patrick's area, Sotties area, are looked after and kept safe from that degradation. Another important project, PSIP project, is the feeder roads project. Work is currently ongoing in the Bel Air Road and Redmond in St. Mark's, and Cherry Hill in Carriacou. They are working speedily in Carriacou as well. I must commend the contractor for the work that they're doing. They commenced on the 4th of January in Carriacou, and they are moving along nicely in terms of doing the surveys and widening of the area. So work is ongoing there on the feeder roads. We'll continue to keep the public abreast on that important project. We have the St. Patrick's Road Network, phase 1 and 2. Phase 1 is ongoing. We have had some delays on that network area for 2 reasons. Because of COVID, of course. One had to do working along with NASA. We had some challenges, some delays with NASA. They are removing a lot of the old pipes, and they're replacing with new ones, so they had some challenges there, and so we had experienced some delays. There are some other delays associated with a particular bridge that have to be prefab outside of Grenada, in Trinidad, to be specific. And because of the COVID situation, the lockdown in Trinidad, that had delayed the delivery of those beams for that bridge in Hermitage. But reports, the last report that we had is that they are working to have those beams come to Grenada sometime during the course of this month, hopefully early, if not this month, early February. So they're working on the logistics to have those beams come in so that that bridge can be completed. So work is progressing despite those delays. So we are very happy about that. The flood mitigation project that we're looking, the study that we're looking at for St. George's, Granans, and we're also looking to cover Grenville as well. That's a critical issue. We did do the tender for that study, and we waiting for the bid evaluation report to be completed, and the preferred bidder will be announced as soon as we have that. We expect that should be completed early February, and so work can commence thereafter. A significant project, the Western Main Road Corridor. We have been working on that project for quite some time. We have a firm, the Caribbean Silver Group. They have been doing the feasibility study. We are happy to report that the feasibility study is completed, and we have received that study. Sometime next week, there are going to be a presentation to our engineering team. We are looking to include civil society as well as part of that presentation. We want to ensure that we keep the public in tune with what is taking place, especially with the Molinier situation. It's a very difficult and task in terms of we having to deal with that and remedy that situation in Molinier. So we do have all the options presented by the firm, engineering firm, and so we'll be looking at the various options that they have recommended for us to resolve that issue in Molinier, and a decision on that recommendation will be made public as soon as that is concluded. So we are happy that the study is completed, and we are moving quickly with that. Funding for this project is through UK CIF, that is channeled through CDB, and so we want to thank the UK government for the support and commitment towards the development of the Western Corridor. That project stretches from the National Stadium to St. Mark's Secondary School. So that whole Western Corridor will see upgrades of road, slope stabilization, but most importantly, the Molinier area. So this is excellent news for us. We continue to do our concrete works and asphalt works. We have been in discussion with a number of our stakeholders to ensure that we move forward with those projects. We are confident we are moving very good. Currently, we have contracts that are commenced in excess of $2.5 million of work just for January alone. So we are on track in terms of getting those projects moving. We do have quite a bit of them, and so we are happy that we are off to a very good start. We do have also the National Disaster Rehabilitation and Reconstruction Extreme Rainfall Project. That's a project that is focused within the St. John's area that will see the replacement of the Brothers Bridge. So we are moving forward, and slope stabilization as well in that area. We are moving forward with that project, and we are hoping to have a final determination as we move forward in terms of tendering for that project sometime in February. So this is a very important project for the St. John's area. We are working on the Monkuma Road. It's basically a new road that we are looking at, a dedicated road from the St. George's area that is Bolio area, terminating into Grenville Vale. That's a very important route network that we identified, and we're working towards having that done. We have put out a tender for designs for that road, and so that is something that we have currently. So persons are tendering for designs for that road network. We are moving quickly to see how we can commence construction on that road. As you know, the challenges that we have with the Mount Morris area. One of the reasons why we are targeting that road network, we are looking at, once we establish that, to give us an opportunity to rehabilitate the Mount Morris area, which we are also looking at Mount Morris and Jones Road as well. So more information on that will be forthcoming. The retrofitting of the street lights, we have put out a tender. We did put out a tender in December. So we are expecting bids to come in, final bids to come in February, at the end of February. And so the successful bidder will be announced once that is concluded. So those are some of the major projects that we just want to bring to the public's attention. If there are other questions relating to other projects, we'll feel free to answer questions regarding those. As regards to the Transport Commission, as you know, a decision was taken for us to move forward in the improvement of the transport sector in Grenada by way of moving from a board to a statutory body. And so we made changes through our legislation, and we are happy in the direction in which the new commission is moving. The board of the commission was established or constituted on the 15th of December, and they are working. And mainly, one of the main focus right now, we are looking at a market assessment study to do an assessment of the transport sector in Grenada. And we believe that that is critical. That will help inform how we move forward, what decisions are made, what is taking place, what are the needs, what are the demands, what are the challenges. So we expect our stakeholders to continue to work with us as we get the study completed, and that will inform some of our major policy decisions as we move forward to improve the infrastructure, transport infrastructure in Grenada. So basically that is where we are with that on the Transport Commission. The vendors market at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium. Sometime yesterday, last night, it was brought to my attention, also other members of cabinet, including the Minister of Agriculture and the parliamentary rep, who is also the parliamentary rep for the town of St. George, that the tents, which and the other amenities that the vendors were using at the market were being removed. We didn't have any knowledge of it at that time, and even prior, I myself didn't have any knowledge prior. Neither the cabinet had any knowledge of it, and so we seek to find exactly what transpired and what resulted in that. We are very disappointed that that incident took place. As you know, the government of Grenada have been supporting the vendors from since COVID to this date. And so we are very disappointed that such an issue happened. From our review, what we found out, and from what and discussion with the Minister of Agriculture last night, sometime in April, as of COVID, we moved the vendors from the market, some of the vendors, and we engaged a contractor to provide service by way of tents, tables, chairs, so the vendors can operate at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium. The Ministry of Agriculture was the ministry the one footing the bill for this service. However, there was a challenge with the Ministry of Agriculture via the budget, and they were unable to continue providing such services. As such, the Ministry of Infrastructure was then contacted to take up the responsibility to keep the services of the tent and other amenities. In discussion, the Ministry of Infrastructure observed that the rate for the service provider, current service provider, was a bit high, and sought to negotiate and sought to look for other service provider. It was observed that another service provider was providing the service at a much less expensive or a cheaper rate than the current provider. However, the current contractor, while his contract was coming to an end, it appears that he probably was not happy that the decision was taken to not continue with him. As such, it appears that there was a deliberate attempt to create some discomfort for the vendors and to create some embarrassment for government, because the tents were removed while the vendors were using it. That is what it appears to us as government, and we are very disappointed by those actions. We believe that there is clear opportunity for if persons feel dissatisfied or aggrieved, and there are clear approaches in which those matters can be handled. And by doing such openly, we feel that was very unfortunate and unnecessary on the contractor's part to do that. While it is his right to do it, we feel very disappointed about that. Because we have been paying that contractor since April, and a sizable sum, if I might add. And I think that because of that relationship, of that contract arrangement, it's quite unfortunate for it to end like this, and for the contractor to respond in such a manner. And that is something that we are not very happy about. And the vendors, of course, they have a right to feel disappointed in the way that they feel. But we as government also want to reiterate that we have been supporting the vendors. We have been paying for services for the rental of the space at the stadium. We have been paying for the tents and chairs, as indicated earlier. We have been paying for cleaning of the area. We have been paying for the skip rental as well. Just recently, as December, as just before the Christmas break, government took a decision, and myself, the Prime Minister, and the parliamentary rep, who's also the Minister for Agriculture, we visited the vendors. We met with them, we discussed with them, we hear some of the challenges, and a stimulus was given to each of those vendors. 11 of them received a cash stimulus, one-off payment in December. Additionally, we have been working, the Ministry of Transport, Department of Transport, we're working with the vendors together with the private sector, providing support by way of a bus shuttle. I'm certain that persons would have heard about it on the advertisement. We want to thank the sponsors who have been working with us, providing a shuttle on Fridays and Saturdays throughout the month of November and December to bring business to the vendors. It's quite unfortunate that as government we have been doing so much for this to happen, and to put government in a situation as if government is not caring and is careless in its action. It's quite unfortunate, and that is not the case. And the facts bear a different story. So we are very disappointed about that, but we are happy to indicate that the tents are back up. By this morning, the tents were back up, and so that matter is resolved to some extent. We have extended apologies to the vendors for that inconvenience that was meted out to them at no fault to them, and I'm hoping sometime this afternoon myself and the Minister of Agriculture will pay a visit and decide to have a more in-depth discussion with the vendors to ensure that this matter does not reoccur going forward in the future. So that is the situation with the vendors at the vendors market. It's quite unfortunate that it happened that way, but it is clear that there was an attempt to to make the ministry look bad, make the government look bad, and it's unnecessary. And I don't understand why someone would do something like that to the vendors. I mean, why would you just? It's unfortunate. So that is what I really wanted to bring to the public's attention this morning. It's unfortunate that we have to be speaking about that. There are a number of important things taking place and issues otherwise, but it's important that we respond and let the public know what transpired. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. So, colleagues, you've heard from the Honorable Minister, Senator Nolan Cox. The floor is now open for your questions. GBN, good morning. Are you ready? GBN, good morning. All right, is anybody else ready with their questions? Colleagues, go right ahead, please.
I'm here.
Go ahead.
I'm here. Good morning. Morning, Minister. I have
Pleasant
a
morning.
few questions that I want to ask you, please. In light of what happened with the vendors yesterday, what can they look forward to in terms of going forward to this St. George's Market Square? Where are we with that project? And how soon can they look to returning? That's one question. Relating to the Brickwater project, you mentioned that 8 families were affected. Has anyone been relocated as a result of what's to take place in terms of the research or the temporary, whatever you'll be putting there or doing temporarily to avoid further erosion? Has anyone had to be relocated to anywhere else? Another question that I have is needing an update the proposed merger between the GCNA and GCA, as well as the MBI expansion project. So that's 4 questions for you, sir.
Thank you very much for your question. Let me take the first one first. The project at the vendors market it's ongoing. The work to take place at the vendors market it's a what you call an incremental one. We have what is taking place now is only one phase of that project development. We have some other buildings to put down as well. We have some buildings that are dilapidated. We have some washrooms to put in as well. So there are a number of other small projects to be implemented at the vendors market. However, the one that is taking place currently, I visited recently as last Friday. Everything is on stream. It is moving quite nicely. That project has various components. For example, there are a number of work in terms of fabricating work, welding. So there's a separate contract for that, a number of welding to be taking place. That is happening. Also, the roof is going to be made of, constructed with a special type of canvas material, which had to be sought outside of the country. We're happy that the material is here on the island, and so the person who have to make it is also working on that. So that is the nature of that project. So everything is moving nicely with that project. We are hoping to have that project conclude soon as I think February, March. I don't have the exact date right here in front of me, but we're hoping to have that done. As soon as that is completed, persons will have an opportunity to move back. However, in going forward, as we commence to do the other works, there may be more inconveniences, and so we will seek to address that and learn from the lessons that we have now, and to ensure that doesn't happen again going forward. One of the challenges that we have regarding the vending is that a number of persons are dedicated vendors, and there are a number of persons vend on weekends. And so you see, you have a large group of persons on weekends, and that is where the challenge comes in terms of space. But on a normal basis during the week, it is quite okay. But it's always a challenge when you have extra persons vending on weekends. And we encourage that. It's not something that we discourage. We encourage persons to participate in the sector. It's a very important sector for this country. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. As regards to the Breakwater project, the recommendation is for relocation. The Ministry of Social Development is working with the families to initiate the relocation. However, I believe that one or two to three persons may opt for a unit at the recently commissioned housing scheme, affordable housing scheme in St. Patrick's. So those discussions are ongoing, but it is the recommendation that the 8 families be relocated. So work is ongoing on that initiative. Regarding the merger, I know that work is still ongoing, but I would defer to the Minister for Agriculture to give him more details on that. I do not have the specific information on the merger with GC and GCNA right now. The MBIA project is ongoing. The contractor is moving in design phase. We did receive a draft design for the bypass road for approval, and so we are working on that. So work is ongoing, and it's on schedule with the MBIA project. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Maguire, good morning. Nancy, are you there? Are you hearing us? All right, Nancy, if you're not ready, Linda Straker, good morning.
Okay, good morning. I have a bit of questions, so I don't know if the minister may want to write them down or you write them down for the minister. My first question starts with the Transport Commission. The minister mentioned that it was commissioned on the 15th of December. Can you share with us who are the members, and in particular who is the chair and the deputy chair? My other question has to do, in his opening statement, he mentioned about waiting on a no objection from the procurement board. Can the minister explain to us why a no objection is expected from the board, and whether or not that project was put up for bid, and if it was put up for tender, how much companies applied? My final set of questions for now, because if I have the opportunity, I would like to go again. With regard to the stadium market situation, can the minister explain or tell us whether or not when it came to selecting that service provider who removed the tents and so, how was that person selected? Was there a bidding process? Was it an approach? How? Because the minister is now telling us that there are other service providers who are offering such service at a cheaper rate. So how was that original decision agreed to? And what was the monthly sum paid out to maintaining that market stadium? As well as with regard to the cash stimulus to the vendors, how much did each vendor would have received? And the new service provider for the tent, who is that service provider? That's my questions for now. I look forward to the answer.
Thank you very much for your question, Linda. Regarding the Transport Commission, the board, yes. Okay, so the chairman of the board is Mr. Lawrence Samuel. The deputy chairman is Mr. Ronald Hughes. Other members of the board of the commission are the Commissioner of Police, Permanent Secretary, Ms. Anna Brizan, Ms. Kay Simon, who is a staff of the Ministry of Legal Affairs, Ms. Gaylan Newton, and Mr. Talia Alexis, who is also one of my engineers at the Ministry of Infrastructure. The next question regarding the procurement. Okay. Yes, the reason why we requesting a no objection for that company to proceed, that company there was not a tender because of the emergency situation in terms of the coastal area. It's a company who had done some preliminary work on that area, and so they were far advanced, and they had submitted those preliminary works sometime last year, or earlier on when we started the breakwater restoration work. And so, because it's a sole source request and for emergency purposes, we have to get procurement to sign off and do the due diligence and to give the okay for us to proceed. As regards to the selecting the the service provider for the tents and so at the stadium, I personally do not have information on what transpired. That was done by the Ministry of Agriculture in the midst of COVID. But I cannot tell you what was the process, whether they called around to find out different prices. That I do not have at hand. So that is something that we can provide for you thereafter, if you so wish to follow up. That would be fine. As regards to the cash stimulus, each person received a sum of $2,000 ECA dollars as a cash stimulus for. That was in terms of some of the hardship that they were experiencing with the lack of traffic and things like that coming to the stadium vendors market, and so we thought it seat fitting to provide that support to the vendors. As regards to the new service provider, I presume the person, Linda, probably know who is the current one, so she didn't ask for the current one, but the new service provider, we have engaged Wagiti Rentals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Nancy, good morning. Are you ready now?
Yes. Good morning. Are you hearing me all right?
Yes, we are. Go right ahead.
Yes. I would like to ask about a little bit more information on the flooding mitigation works that you're going to have underway in Grand Anse and Grenville. And particularly in Grenville, in the budget speech, it was indicated the commercial complex is going to get underway this year. So how are you dealing with the flooding in Grenville in terms of that commercial complex if you haven't completed the flooding studies? And also, when you do start working on the commercial complex, there were discussions that the vendors that operate there nearby will be moved. Well, they'll need to be moved, but there were discussions that they may be in the Nutmeg Pool facility. I want to know if that's been confirmed. And there's also been discussions about vendors generally, vendors on the streets and off the streets, in the markets, not in the markets, and the need to take a look at the Public Marketplaces Control Act. And I'm wondering where you stand on that. And finally, also in the budget, there was mention that we're going to get underway with Carlton House. Can you confirm when that's going to happen, where that's going to happen? We had reported that it was going to be at the compound of Princess Alice Hospital in Maribor. So can you follow up on those for us? Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you very much for your question, Nancy. All right, let me see if I can go back. So let me start first with the Grenville Commercial Complex in relation to the flood mitigation study. Just to reiterate, I think it's important to note that the Grenville Commercial Complex is an existing building, and this is not something that we're building from scratch. So it's an existing building that is going to be renovated and refurbished to some extent. In relation to the study, we anticipate that the study will commence and complete before any major construction works within the Grenville area. So we are quite confident about that, and the study will help inform what is taking place and how we should proceed. As regards to the vendors, just to follow up on the commercial complex, there is a board of directors for the Grenville Commercial Complex, and they are playing an integral part in the design, in the management of that project and the implementation of that project. While we do have responsibility at the Ministry of Infrastructure, the board is taking the lead on that project. So you will hear more about that, and maybe the board may give some response to the public in that regard going forward as the project unfolds. As regards to the study, the study is a very important study for us, and we understand the challenges that are taking place in Grenville with the constant flooding, St. George's and Grand Anse area. Once that study is complete, it will help really create an opportunity for us to see how we're going to move forward with the implementation of those works, and to implement remedial actions. Regarding the vendors, yes, we recognize there are a number of informal vending taking place throughout the island, everywhere, along the roadside, everywhere. And we understand that the challenges now a number of persons who may have lost employment in other sectors are looking to find ways to create some livelihood for themselves. And as such, is something that we have to look at. We have to make sure we respond appropriately, not to create further distress, but to find a way to formalize it and to ensure that persons can create livelihoods in a safe manner. Like, for example, there are some persons who may go and set up on a particular way on the roadside, not realizing that that can have some impact in terms of traffic congestion, and may also be a catalyst for accidents as well. So what we try to do and try to encourage is to let persons have a conversation with the traffic department before engaging in some of those setting up at some of those sites, to ensure that they're not going to create a problem for other road users as well. So while we understand that the issue of them having a livelihood, but creating a problem or hazard or risk, not only for other road users but for themselves, is one of the things that we're trying to avoid. We have not looked at the Control Act, the Vendors Control Act, Market Control Act in recent time, but it's something that we definitely have to look at based on what is taking place and how persons are actually setting up arbitrarily throughout the island. So that is something that we have to give consideration to. As regards to the Carlton Home project, yes, that's an important project for us. We are working with our major stakeholder, the Grenada Cooperative Bank, who have been raising funds over the past decade or so to support that project. Government has given commitment in terms of its share towards that project. But as regards to the specific details on the site and location, those are still being worked out, and more information will come on that as we get ready to unfold that project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Alicia Samuel, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, are you hearing me?
Yes, we are. Go right ahead.
Okay. 3 questions. Minister, the stakeholder committee, is it in place in regards to the transport commission, that committee to include the bus operators and others? Is that committee in place? Can I have an update on the work at the St. George's Market? Is it on schedule, specifically in regards to Building 3? And is that project still on, the one to move the Zone 7 buses to Melville Street for that area that was cleared out? Is that project still on, or has it been abandoned? That's all for now.
Thank you very much for your questions. The stakeholder committee has not been finalized as yet. That is one of the main tasks that the commission, the board of the Transport Commission, has to conclude. What is taking precedent now? I know that they are working on it, and they will have to have several meetings, and we'll have to get some support from Legal Affairs in drafting that memorandum of understanding how the stakeholder committee is going to engage with the Transport Commission. What is taking place right now in terms of immediate work is that the commission is setting up a physical space, an office. So the work is ongoing on that. So very soon our stakeholders are going to get an opportunity to engage and to form part of that, to give guidance on how that stakeholder committee, in terms of the memorandum of understanding, will contain, what will contain therein, for how both the stakeholders will engage the commission going forward. So thank you very much for raising that. Yes, it's a critical activity for us, but we do have it done to be completed very soon. As regards to the schedule, I did speak on the vendors market earlier. Yes, we are on schedule to move forward to complete that building at the St. George's Market. The contractor, I must commend him. He's doing a pretty good job, and everything is moving smooth on that project. So we don't have any major issues on that project. Some of the inputs that we had to get from overseas, they are here on island, and so we are moving forward with that project. In terms of moving the Zone 7 buses What I do know is that no final decision has been made as to how we're going to utilize the space at the Melville Street. There have been recommendations for moving the buses, of course, also recommendations for having paid parking for persons who looking for a place to park in town and do have a willingness to pay. We believe also there's an opportunity to raise revenue and to provide a service for parking. Persons do want that convenience. So those are some of the discussions. There's also discussions about building back booths there, but are more suitable so that persons can do vending there. So no decision has been made on what we're going to do with that area as yet, but as soon as we do, we will let you know and the public know, of course.
Thank you. Linda, you have follow-up questions?
Yes, I did have a follow-up question. In answering me, the minister said, it appears that I knew the first, the regional service provider. I would be happy if the minister can provide us with a name. Who was that original service provider? Now that Mr. Redhead has the new service contract, what is actually the monthly sum, the cost for that monthly contract with WeiVybz? And the other follow-up I have, would the minister be able to tell us how severe his ministry was affected based on the reallocation of funds to repurchase the Grenada shares? Government said that it was a matter of reallocating, and I will use word cutting and paste, taking here and taking there. How severe were the Ministry for Infrastructure in particular affected by that reallocation of funds in terms of government projects, the coming on stream of government project, in particularly road building? And my final thing is the minister in a position to explain to us what is the current position of the Mount Hatman quarry? Sometime last year we would have seen report in the media of law enforcement had to be called in, and there was a situation developing down there. He's in a position to tell us what is the status of the quarry with regard to ownership.
Thank you very much, Linda, for your questions. Let me respond first. The service provider, the current service provider for the tents and at the stadium is Blue Bubbles, and the service fee for Mr. Wagiti going forward, that I don't have at hand. I can make that available to you as soon as I have that. I don't have that service fee for Mr. Ward. What I can tell you is that from since April to this date, the government of Grenada had spent in excess of $350,000 in support towards the vendors being at the vendors market. I think that is significant. I think it must be noted that government have been investing in the vendors and not taking the situation and the livelihood lightly. And so I think it is important to indicate that. As regards to regarding the settlement and the repurchasing of shares from Grenada and how it has impacted infrastructure budget, I think that is the question that was asked. What I do know is that the minister did indicate that that because of some projects that were not able to be implemented due to COVID, because we were not functional, we had closed for quite some time, that allowed for those funds that were not used to be rediverted. So all that would have happened is that now funds will have to repurpose back for those projects as they come out for 2021. So it's not as affected us significantly because we didn't have an opportunity to implement those projects in earnest, and so those funds could not have been utilized. So that, as regards to the quarry belongs to the government of Grenada. There is a lease on the quarry. The quarry is been listed out to, I think, CCC. And what I do know, I did have some discussions with them recently, as we have been doing, having discussions with our primary stakeholders, other contractors as well. They have indicated that they have done some upgrading to the quarry so that they are strategically positioned to supply different grades and quality of material, not only for government work for implementing our project, but also for the private sector. So I did have a meeting with them recently on the weekend regarding the functionality of the quarry and being able to support our projects as we get ready to roll them out. So the quarry is functioning in that regard. So that is what I do know. We also want to just inform the public that we have been engaging other contractors. One of our biggest challenges and one of the things that we are most concerned about is the employment of persons and persons' jobs. We know that once there are a number of contractors who have in excess of 100 employees, and we have to make sure that those persons remain gainfully employed. So we have been working with our stakeholders to find what is the status, what is the situation, what are some of the challenges they are having, and to see how if there are opportunities through government that we can provide for our stakeholders to remain viable in the sector. So I think that is important to note as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy, you have a follow-up? Go right ahead.
Yes, I have a follow-up on the Grenville commercial project. You referred us to the board of directors, but contacting the board of directors, one gets referred back to the ministry. So it's difficult to get details on what's going on there. You said that the flooding information study will be available before you start on the construction, and that it's going to be renovation and refurbishment to the existing building. But I've been told that it's going to be a multi-story building that will house the co-op bank, the library, and the post office. And there'll be room for some commercial businesses. So I'd like to get some more details on the schedule for this building and how it relates to this flooding study, and more information about what's going to happen to the businesses around there, including the vendors, when construction starts, and if you do know when that construction will start. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much for your question. As I indicated, the study is what will inform in terms of what is taking place, why there is flooding, where the bottlenecks are, where the challenges are, what needs to happen. I cannot see that the construction will affect the flooding. I do not know that. Maybe it may help. I do not know. I cannot say. So as I indicated, until we have the results of the study, it will help give us an indication as how we move forward. While there are certain standards that are required in terms of the design and so for buildings of a certain type and nature, those engineering standards are going to be applied, and we hope that it will fall in line with what the recommendations will yield. The board for the commercial complex, they are the ones that are working together with the engineer in terms of having the final design. So where we are right now is at a design stage, and so as soon as we have those designs ready, we already have a short list of companies to tender. So what we would have done previously was to have what you call a pre-qualification. So even before somebody can tender the project, we had a pre-qualification process to ensure that persons meet the requirements for tendering for such a project. So that has already been completed, and we have a short list of companies to do that. So that is done. What is being finalized now are the designs. The designs are being finalized, and as soon as that is done, a tendering process. I don't have the timelines in front of me. As I said, we're working closely with the board to have all those activities completed. So that is where we are. As regards to the vendors, if vendors or any businesses are in any way will pose some risk towards the implementation of this project, for obvious reasons, there will be a requirement for relocation. We do not expect persons to remain in proximity where a construction site is going to commence and may cause a harm or danger to persons. So there would be some expectations for persons to move when construction is to commence. I think that is a fair anticipation of what will transpire. Regarding the boulder, I do know that our team has been out working. The last discussion I had with them was that they, because of the size of the boulder, they may have to do some degree of blasting. So they've been working with the RGPF to have that completed. That is the last report I received on that incident.
Thank you. Callistra, good morning. You have a question? Callistra, are you there?
Good morning, Minister. Can you tell me if there's any change, any movement on the situation with the vendors, the vegetable vendors at the National Stadium, the ones under the tent outside?
Yes, the tents and the other amenities should have been replaced. So there should be that should be addressed for now. But as I indicated earlier, I intend to visit there sometime within the next hour or so, just to see for myself and to have a direct conversation with the vendors on the matter.
You have another question, Callistra?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, great. Anisha, good morning. You have a follow-up?
Hello? Yes.
Go ahead.
You hearing me?
Yes,
Okay.
we are.
Minister, follow up to the vendor situation. Why is it that we're still seeing vendors at two locations, at the St. George's Market and at the stadium, when the original instructions was that all vendors should be at the stadium, and having those at the stadium complaining of reduced sales and the poor treatment that was meted out to them yesterday?
Thank you very much for that question. Now, when we did had a recommendation from the health team that we need to move some persons out from the market, the vendors market in St. George's, and so we were trying to wrap our heads around actual site where we can move them, and hence the reason why we end up at the Kirani James Atleti Stadium. When we made the move, everybody who had to move moved. However, as time progresses and persons were challenged in terms of sales, some persons either stopped selling, even some of the persons who were not just selling vegetables but selling other products. They stopped selling. Some of them moved to other locations in St. George's, maybe with permission from some of the areas or the persons who own those buildings, those properties that they're set up close by. And some of them went back along some of the areas in St. George's with the expectation of doing much better than how they were doing at the stadium. That is the challenge. One of the things that we wanted to do as well, we really wanted to, and one of the reasons why we are supporting the vendors who remain at the stadium is because of they stuck it out, and we wanted to commend them for that. And one of the reasons, that's one of the main reasons why we opted to work with them and to give them all the necessary support that they can, because they complied with our recommendations. We have started to work. We had started to move some. If you notice, we had cleared up the Melville Street area to move persons out of there because of the situation as well. But the fact of the matter is that some persons decided not to stay there. Some persons actually stopped vending because it was not profitable for them. So those are some of the ins and outs of that decision. COVID is with us. It will remain with us for some time. Even if we complete all the works at the market, it still will be a challenge for everybody to go inside there and for us to adhere to the COVID regulations or recommendations in terms of the social distancing and stuff. So it's something that we have to contend with. We have to do what we can as government to continue to give support wherever we can. But the decision was for person just felt that they just wasn't cutting it, and you can have an appreciation that everybody have their own economy to deal with, their own challenges. We don't know what persons' financial commitments are, and for some persons might be able to go a day or 2 to 3 days without sales, while some persons cannot. And so those intricacies is what is difficult for government, for us, in terms of how do we treat with that. It's a very delicate and sensitive issue. For the greater part, we have worked with them. We have asked them to try to comply as much as possible. But creating any further aggrieved situation, maybe by charging or arresting, I don't know if that will help with the situation. And so it's a matter of us. We continue to dialogue with the vendors, and because they are in a difficult position. Most persons in the country now are challenged because of COVID, and so we are very sensitive towards that. And so we are working with those who are working with us, and we continue to encourage the others to comply. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, colleagues, we're getting ready to wrap this up, but we have Nisha Paul. Nisha, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are. Go right ahead.
Okay. Minister, as it relates to the company that would be conducting the study along the northeastern coast, can you reveal the name of the company and at what cost? The cost of the study, please. Thank you.
I'm just contemplating because we haven't had a final no objection as yet from procurement. I promise we will reveal the name of the company as soon as those contractual arrangements conclude, and the amount. But as it stands now, from a professional standpoint, I would ask that you allow us not to disclose that at this point in time, just in case that for some reason procurement choose not to go ahead with our recommendation. It will be a bit unprofessional for us to disclose those details at this time. So as soon as we have that, you will get an opportunity to know who and the quantity. So please be guided by that. Thank you very much.
That's it for you, Nisha. All right, colleagues, we have 2 minutes to wrapping up time. Anybody has a quick final question before we wrap this up? All right. So it seems as though we've exhausted all questions. So, Minister, you have the opportunity for some final words.
Thank you very much, Leslie. I just want to close on the market vendors matter, and just to say that. To reiterate government's position, we have remained committed. We are a caring government. We respond as we have done so in the past and continue to do so. Like, for example, at Sorties at the Breakwater, there are persons whose homes are under threat, and we are responding quickly, swiftly, and appropriately, if I should add. So there's a clear indication, and whatever is represented is or indicated in terms of government's intentions and approach towards the public, to businesses, towards the vendors, is grossly misstated. We have always taken an approach that bears some degree of professionalism, and one to seek redress that will serve both sides. In this case with the vendors, we have this really need to register our disappointment with what really transpired, and we believe that it was uncalled for. It was unnecessary to create that discomfort for the vendors. Just doing that to them while they were actually using it. I think it's woefully inappropriate and really unacceptable. As I said, we continue to support the vendors in every way possible that we can. As you can see, from what we have expended thus far, is quite significant. And for anyone to think that government is not supporting the agriculture sector, or not supporting our farmers, or not supporting our vendors, is grossly incorrect. The facts state clearly otherwise. And so, as I indicated, that we're going to deal with this and treat with this going forward to ensure that vendors are comfortable in this regard. And I know that the heat of the emotion, a number of choice words would have been issued. I know my colleagues and friends who are vendors, and I know they can be very passionate at times. So I understand their response, but be rest assured that we continue to support them and to ensure that their livelihoods are protected in every way possible. That is what we do as a government. We are well known for that, and it's just because we care about our people. So we continue to invest in them and to ensure that happens. I think there's a critical thing, and there's something that I want to clear up. There is some misunderstanding regarding the whole COVID, and in terms of the state of emergency and the curfew. Just for clarity, by act of Parliament, a state of emergency was instituted for 6 months. However, the curfew was for 21 days, and so I think there is some mix-up in the public domain as to which is which, and so that curfew would go for 21 days. I think terminate on the 2nd of February. So the current regulations that are in place regarding the curfew is for 21 days. So just to remind the public, and just to commend the Ministry of Health and the work that they have been doing with COVID and keeping Grenada safe. We've seen a lot of fires taking place around us, cases. We continue to implore on citizens in particular to be vigilant, keep ourselves safe, and see how quickly and easy with a high infection rate you could easily have a run on your hospital, and so we have to be very careful about that. So we are appealing and calling on citizens to continue to wear your mask, sanitize, wash your hands. We need to get accustomed to that until we can arrest this by way of vaccine. That we are very hopeful that can happen within the next couple of months or so. But otherwise than that, we asking persons to please stay safe. It's important that you do so. We are a bit stabilized right now, but we cannot take any chances because of what is taking place around us with our neighbors. It means that there's a saying that when your neighbor house is on fire, you have to take water and wet yours. So we are basically in a position now we have to keep wetting our house to ensure that we do not have any fire again as we had in December. As we speak of COVID. So thank you very much for that. We do have a number of other developments coming. We will update the public a number of important projects that we have mentioned in the budget. We are working. We're moving. We want to just ensure that the public is kept up to date. And I just want to thank the persons this morning from the media for the questions. It's important that we provide this opportunity for you to facilitate those questions so that the public can get a sense as to what is taking place, read the work of government. So thank you very much for the job that you're doing to the media personnel. I appreciate it. That's it.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. A very good note to end on. Colleagues, we do want to thank you as well, those of you joining us via Zoom, those of you who joined us via Channel 22 of Facebook page, and of course the YouTube channel, and of course those of you in the diaspora as well. Minister, it was very, very good to have you and of course to see you. So thank you to each and every one of you, and of course for the technical team that's in the room with us as well. Have a great day, everybody. My name is Leslie Ann Johnson. Thank you.
Very special good morning to those of you joining us on the live video stream, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or on Instagram. A special good morning to you. We are just coming off the heels of a post-cabinet briefing that has been facilitated by the Honorable Minister for Infrastructure and Works, the Honorable Senator Norland Cox. All right, and of course, we are extremely grateful for a lot of the information that has been provided in that very short segment of the post-cabinet briefing. A lot has been said, a lot of information has been given. We don't have much time, so I'm not going to go into detail on a lot of the things. But what we are going to do at this point is just take a moment to go through just the basic things. And of course, one of the main things that I want to cover is that rumor that has been going around that there is a 6-month state curfew. And you see, that's why it's so important, and that's why we always encourage people to, oh God, take all your time and read. And if you don't understand something, ask a question, ask a question. Because it's very wrong for people to go around with these rumors, with these things that they're saying, and misleading people who really just don't know better, or who just don't have access to the information in the way that you do. It's rather unfair, and it's rather unfortunate that you have educated people just misleading on purpose, misleading the general public. And good morning to all of you on the live, those of you who are extending their greetings this morning. Now, just to clarify, or to make clear for the general public, and it's something that we've spoken here about. Now, the state of emergency, right? The state of emergency is what would last 6 months. Now, this state of emergency has been put in place in the event that we have an incident, as we did in December. It would give now government and minister actually powers to enforce certain regulations. Now, the regulations are the things that govern us during that time. So it would be things such as the quarantine protocols. It would be things such as a curfew if one is necessary. It would be regulations that would limit the gathering or control the gathering of people and all of these things. Those are the protocols, the regulations that fall under the state of emergency. Now, those regulations can change at any time. So while the state of emergency, that provision that gives the minister the powers to implement those protocols, would last 6 months, the curfew, which is a facet of, which is part of the regulations that fall within the state of emergency can be changed at any time. So the minister can, with the recommendation of the health officials, can simply say, okay, well, we are in a great place, so we can remove the curfew next week, or we can extend the curfew, or we can put the curfew to a later date. Whatever it is, those regulations that fall under the state of emergency, those can change at any time. And that's what the state of emergency really does. Limited state of emergency, that is, really does. It gives the minister the teeth, as we call it, to put these protocols and so on in place so that we are protected when the protection is needed. And I don't see why, and it baffles me, why people would see it necessary. People would see it funny. People will take a political footing when it comes to these very sensitive matters, because it is important for all of the people of Grenada, regardless of the political affiliation, to understand these very delicate matters, right? Because it is meant to protect us as a people, right? So it's very important for us to not, at least try our best not to politicize these things, because not only is it going to be detrimental, or a matter of fact, it's not going to be detrimental to the administration. It's going to be detrimental to the people of Grenada, and that's how we have to look at it. So there is that notion that we are under 6 months of curfew. That is an incorrect notion, and those of you who know better should try to clarify. Try to assist people who have the wrong idea in understanding exactly what is going on. So no, we're not under a 6-month curfew. We are not. And for those people out there without any legal background, questioning the legalities of certain decisions that are made, don't you find it funny that you are the ones talking but the legal minds are quiet? Do you know why the legal minds are quiet? The legal minds are quiet because no illegalities have taken place. Simple. And those who choose to play politics would push that in front and make it seem as if, the government is acting illegally. Well, if they are acting illegally, then that is what the court of law is there for. But they cannot take the government to court because nothing illegal has been done. So sometimes we have to think on our own, well, why is this happening? Or why is that happening? Or why am I the person talking? I'm not a legal luminary. I am not in a position where I can determine whether this is illegal or not. So why am I the one sharing this information if the legal minds themselves are not doing it? Sometimes we have to ask those very pertinent questions. Like I said, we don't have a lot of time. I'm not going to be here for very long, but I do want to make a very important announcement. Yesterday, we did indicate that we were going to have a special guest with us tomorrow. So just for information purposes to the general public, tomorrow, sitting next to us here in studio would be our Honorable Prime Minister. He's going to be coming here to do his first interview with Hard Talk for 2021. We are excited. We look forward to it. We are going to ask you, of course, because he is going to be here for a limited period, to make sure if you have questions that you formulate your questions, because the calls will not be very long. But we are excited to have him here, to sit with him, to have these important discussions on things that are going on within the country. This morning I was listening to the point, and again, unfortunate. I always say this: unfortunate that our young people are so misguided in the politics, or how politics should be, that they go out there and just make so much unfortunate statements. And I was listening to a young individual that is talking about, our country is not ready for renewable means and ways in which we can generate electricity, all because you want to vilify the decision of the government in buying back the shares, a decision which was forced upon them. And we have to remember that government did not take WRB to court. And let me correct the young mister in saying that. The WRB took government to court, right? And they were forced to buy back the shares. So don't make it seem as if it was government, and don't make it seem as if it was something new, because if you were listening to a program, which I know you did, you probably missed that one. You would have heard when the former Minister of Finance, Nazim Burke, in 2013, I believe, let me see if I could find it. I don't want to misquote. I want to find the exact clip. And I mean, if you want to hear the clip, I can send it for you. I'm glad. I'm very good at sharing things with people. So I could share that piece of information with you if you need it. In 2012, let me see what date exactly. The 5th of December 2012, where WRB demanded that in 30 days they make a decision to buy back the shares, and at a cost of hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's not something that is new. It's not the first time that WRB has tried that. The only difference is our government is a government of action. So we knew, how to handle the situation. We knew how to govern, how to make the right decision, how to come up with the resources in order to pay for the shares. That is now going to be an asset that belongs to the country. So whether it's NNP, the NNP administration that is there, whether it's any other administration that is in power, the shares and are assets of the country. They belong to Grenada. It will be beneficial for Grenadians. And once you try to vilify that, then you are telling Grenadians that they are not entitled to this piece of asset, that they should not own anything that belongs to Grenada. The same thing that you guys are trying to come against. So you are absolutely comfortable with a company out of the United States of America owning a piece of asset that should very much belong to the people of Grenada, right? But if it was a Chinese company that owned it, you would have had an issue with that. If it was a Chinese company that bought the shares, you would have had an issue with that. It belongs to Grenadians. It is ours now. There should be no qualms and queries as to who it should belong to. It belongs to us. We must now move forward on how we deal with it and how we handle it. And it's a very backward thing to say that we are not ready for renewable energy. We need to make ourselves ready. This is the way that the country is going. And that is what good governance is about. It's about foresight. It's about looking into the future, looking at future developments for the country. We can't continue to sit on our laurels and say, well, Grenada not ready yet. The people are not ready yet. And that is why we need to change our mindset as Grenadians. We need to start seeing things for the way it should be, the development that we want for our country. And be adamant in getting that development. We must look forward to these things. If we continue to look at Grenada and say, well, we're too small for that, we shouldn't get that, these people shouldn't invest, then we will continue to be behind in everything if we continue to vilify every investment, if we continue to look at every development as if it was some evil that is being done to us. If we don't start to embrace the way the world is moving, then we will be left in its dust. So that was a very unfortunate statement made by a young individual at that. I mean, I expect, one of the old stalwarts who don't really understand the way in which the world is going and who is bent on the foundations in which the country was built and all of that. I expect them to make that statement. But a forward-thinking young individual, it's very unfortunate that you would make a statement like that. And I listened to the individual and when asked a very serious question concerning things that happened in the days of NDC of 2008 to 2013, and his very unfortunate statement that he wasn't there in that time, so he doesn't have to. He can't really answer, but he knows that he has to deal with the situation, but he cannot speak for that era. But yet you still sit on that same platform and try to justify things done in that era by that government. But yet for all, you're running away from your past, but trying to throw this administration past in front of the people under the bus to make it seem like we've done something wrong. Everybody must be accountable for their past. So own up to yours. Your government has failed, and they will continue to fail if the mindset of the people within the leadership does not change. And that is a fact. Good governance is not about who is in power. It is about what is best for the people of the country. It's not about how much power you can have. It's not about what area of government you're going to be in, or what minister of government you want to be, or how much times you are going to be able to it's how much times you are going to be able to travel. It's not about power. It's about service to country. That is what good governance is about. Service to the people. So whether people like you or not, you still have to serve them when you get into government. You see, and that is what the NNP administration understands, that it is about service to people. It is about service to country. And people may not like your decisions all of the time, but as long as you're doing it with a clear conscience and with the best interest of your people at heart, that is what is important. Governance is about making hard decisions. It's about making unpopular decisions. That is what good governance is about. It's not about going on these programs every Tuesday or whatever and running your mouth and running down every development and so on. And then when you get into office, you can't even lift a finger because you are afraid to lift a finger because you have condemned so many things you don't know where to start. You have to be careful of the foundations that you are laying. In the event that you do get into power, guess what? You ain't gonna have a ground to stand on because you are trying to break every foundation that is being built for this country. And that is something that we have to understand. All right? We do have a call on the line. I think we'll be able to take maybe one or two calls. The number to call is 440-7377. If you're calling locally, if you are in the diaspora and you want to give us a call, the number to call is 347-329-3101. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, my honey bunch.
Hi, good morning, Miss Jacob. How are you?
How are you?
I am fine.
Where's your HARDTALK family?
Which HARDTALK family are you talking about, Mr. Bola?
Your husband. Because I married you yesterday.
You married us yesterday?
Yes. So that's your husband. Okay?
He is engaged in his general secretarial issues.
Okay.
Yes, his duties as general secretary has taken him away from the program today.
Right.
But he will be here tomorrow.
I forgive him for that.
Yes.
Forgive him for
He will be here tomorrow along with the Prime Minister. And of course, we expect it to be a very interesting conversation.
That is my loving, beautiful, handsome, wee papa Prime Minister. But
I know.
Why that Prime Minister sweet.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't say people how they boasting on him with Trinidad, I don't be more on Trinidad station. If you hear, that time I say nothing, say, yeah, Mr. Jacob, I know that you Prime Minister. I know that you Prime Minister, Mr. Jacob, I know that you Prime Minister, and the one down here, Trinidad too, because, well, I said I'm a twin.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, right there. That's sweet too much, you know.
Yeah. So I know I know that you will be tuned in tomorrow and listening.
Eh?
I said I know you'll be tuned in tomorrow and listening.
More than tuned in too. You crazy? I have the radio will be right there.
I know, but I do wanna take as many calls as possible, Miss Jacob. So we will chat again.
Somebody get a next call before you. Oh, no.
All right. You have a wonderful day.
Have a wonderful and a blessed day, brother Burn.
He's listening.
Hi, sweetheart. Love divine. Well, I'm going to take your wife today and I'm going to run away with her because you don't dare to take care of her.
Ms. Jacob, specify, please, work wife. Because I don't know what y'all saying. Y'all going to make Miss Allison feel a kind of way. But it's a good thing she knows better.
Oh, his wife?
Yes.
He's already loving and sweet too.
She is a wonderful person.
Running away, 4 of us going. Me, you, he, and
yes,
she.
I agree.
4 of us going away now. Leaving Grenada and go, but we can't go because that go put police to hold us. You understand how the thing is?
I do. Well, you have a wonderful day, Miss Jacob.
God, you have a wonderful and a blessed day. God bless you and love you, darling.
All right, love you too. Bye-bye.
Okay?
Yeah.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Yep. So, guys, we have to be careful as young people, and I want to talk to the young people who are invested in getting into politics, who want to see different for the country. You cannot, in the same breath, saying you want to see something different for the country, but follow the ways of the old NDC affiliates, because you're not any better. You're not going to be bringing anything better to the table. All you're going to be doing is bringing a younger, the same old treatment or the same old ideologies that have not worked for us as Grenadians in a younger body. That's all it's going to be. So we have to be very careful. When you're going on these programs, be well informed. Don't go back and just regurgitate what they tell you to say, and don't regurgitate things that you haven't thought about or that you've heard. I've heard them speak about the deferral of the 4%. I mean, how can you at this point in time look at the situation that we are in economically? I mean, we're not feeling it because we've had such prudent management of the economy, right? We are able to do a lot of the things and continue to do a lot of the things that we have done during the period or before the period of COVID. Now, there will come a time when we will start feeling the blunt of what COVID has done to our economy. Now, because our government understands how our economies should work, they are now able to say, listen, let us defer. Let us defer for a year. Let us defer for 2 years. They're not saying, give up your right to these monies. They're saying, just hold on a bit. And I hear him saying, oh, this money is monies that will be re-injected into the economy. Who tell you them people who plan to save their $60 or whatever it is? You cannot make those sort of judgments. If the economy, if we're seeing that we need to do this, we must understand as a people, because then it will come down to a matter of sacrifice. What are you willing to sacrifice for your 4%? Are you willing to sacrifice your colleague next to you? Are you willing to sacrifice your husband at home? Are you willing to sacrifice the job of a cousin or a sister or a brother? Because that is what it will come down to. 4% today and no job tomorrow. That is how that's the reality of the situation. We have to look at it that way. We have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Duncan.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, Ms. Duncan, in life, sometimes when somebody make a bad deal and they put the country in real difficulties, and you have someone come to clean up the mess, right? You see what the person will try to do? Try to change the topic of what the person do to clean up the deal and make people forget the bad deal they did. When you look at the situation we ended in 1994 with that deal they make with W.I, right? And now the government come and clean it up and bring back the electricity company back in the hands of the Grenadian people. So what they're trying to do, make the Grenadian people forget about the bad deal that they make with the W.I. With everything that they make a deal. Like you have a child, and you're giving a stranger charge over that child. Do anything you want with that child. To the child, then you come and tell the child you love them. You love the child. I want to say to the Grenadian people, don't let nobody try to change the topic, but look at the situation right now of the deal that NDC made in 1994 with W.I. And look at the situation right now, where the government at the time, the government care about people. Because I always say that people are always crying out about the cost of electricity in the country. Mm-hmm. They're very high. I know a lot, and even the opposition was talking about agro industry, factories. Mm-hmm. But look at the cost. Look at the cost of electricity you have to pay if you have to run a factory. Look at the hotels again. Look at it. But when you have now the government of Grenada buy back, right? Buy back the Grenada electricity company. What happening there now? The price of electricity will go down. More people will be getting electricity at the home. At the home. More jobs. Hotel will employ people because of the cost of the high price of electricity bill. Hotel have to close down. Workers have to go home. Right? So who caused that? You see, tonight you cannot forget who bring us there. But look at the ending. Once there is an ending, there must be a beginning. And if the beginning is very bad and very difficult, and it brings hardship on the Grenadian people, we cannot forget. And so what the NC are trying now, trying to make people forget what the bad deal they do, and ask them where the government get the money to buy back. And I always say in life, NC never want to pay back anything. right? And we're looking at a foreign company to put pressure on the Grenadian people. But you have a government that care about the Grenadian people, and they want to see development. So that's why, as Mr. Bola said, he don't do something that is popular, but what he's doing is something that is right, and the Grenadian people will be proud and happy. And I know they're happy because of the decision that this government made to get back the electricity company back in the hands of Grenadian people. So, Ms. Duncan, you have a wonderful day. God bless.
You too. Thank you so much for your call. Guys, remember the number to call if you want to contribute to the conversation is 440-7377 if you're calling locally. If you are in the diaspora and you want to give us a call, the number to call is 347-329-3101. Guys, we just have to, at some point, decide for ourselves that we will find our information and make our own analyses. We just have to make that decision. We have another caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Duncan.
Hi, good morning.
You know, I was listening to GBN this morning as well. I was really disappointed in Ron. Ron telling this government to search their heart because they couldn't pay, well, they want to defer the 4%. Mm-hmm. He asking the government to search their heart. What about the heart of the NDC between 2008 to 2012? What happened? Nobody got a salary increase. Not a salary increase, you know. They didn't say we're going to defer a salary increase until with further notice, you know. Even the unions was quiet. Mm-hmm. At that point, the workers had no right. They had no right to a salary increase. Mm-hmm. You know, it was not classed as, you know, it was not seen as the government didn't like workers at the time and didn't have the best interests at the time, you know. Until then, 2008, the government was selling places left, right, and center. Yep. I mean, this government, NMP government, is getting blamed for the doctors' quarters not being available. And it's only lately that I learned that the doctors' quarters, some of them has been sold by the NDC. Mm-hmm. And these things are being kept quiet while NNP is getting leaks for all kind of things that they don't know about. And I am wondering, why are we not bringing these things out and letting the people know all of the places, you know, that NDC seems to like to sell things. Look at the deal they made with WRB. The reason why we are in this state now and talking about WRB is because of NDC. Mm-hmm. There would have been no WRB if NDC did not give away our electricity company. And WRB saw a way of developing the electricity company. Mm-hmm. And they took the advantage. But NDC didn't see that. Yeah. I mean, they were not interested in the health services when they sold the doctor quarters. Now they have all kind of thing about NNP not interested in health and not. NNP built 2 hospitals, one of which they met there and they could not fix because they have no insight. I mean, are people looking at these things? Are people really looking at these things? Yeah. We need to inform we need to let the people know what NDC has done and has been doing. All they do is sell assets, sell things that people could develop. Yeah. You know, tell me how much money that WRB has taken out of the country that Grenadians could have had if NDC only had a development mind and insight. Yeah. They don't have that, and no NNP. So the only reason we are talking about WRB is because of NDC. No other reason.
That's correct.
So they put us in a position that we are in now. So they shouldn't even talk. Miss Duncan, you have a blessed day.
You as well, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution. And the caller is absolutely right. We are only in this position where we can talk about WRB because the NDC put us in that position in 1994. And just in case you all don't remember, they were also approached by WRB to buy back the shares as well in 2012. But the only difference is they couldn't find the money. They don't have the insight to find the monies to get these things. And that is why they did not buy back the shares. But they knew they made a mistake. They wanted to buy back the shares. Imagine a company like that would have been pillaging monies out of that could have been invested into Grenada to help develop the country. For 80 years, an 80-year monopoly. I mean, who does that? Who does that? And put back this terrible clause in the share purchase agreement that would make it almost impossible for anyone else to intervene in the electricity sector. That would make it almost impossible for anyone else to invest in electricity in Grenada. They should be the last people to open their mouths and say anything about Grenada. They should just say thank you and move on. There must be other things they could find to condemn. Because that is all that they are good at, all that they can do. Condemn. If you listen to them, I've never seen a more negative group. You never see anything positive. Everything is negativity. If you look on the pages of their advocates, nothing to help uplift youth. No information to help a farmer plant a seed. Nothing to help young people learn anything, but they're so big on education. Absolutely nothing but negativity. They should be the last people to open their mouths. Someone is saying NDC has no clue of effective management. They are just distractors and inhibitors who continue to be enemies of progress. And I believe that. I agree. They are enemies of progress. As the caller said, there was a structure up at the hospital for the full 4 or 5 years that they were in government talking about there was nothing they could do to that structure. Look, we now have a proper new facility there that is going to house our labs, that is going to house our accident and emergency, that is going to house imaging centers. I mean, if you do not see for yourself that these people have no foresight, that these people have no clue what development should look like, that these people have no clue on how to look forward. That is why they keep looking back. That is why they keep saying no to everything. That is why they are not able to provide a possible solution to everything that they object, because they have no foresight. You know, like a little child when you're growing up, all they do is say, no. You ask them something and all they're saying is no. They have no good reason for why they're saying no, but that is just what they know to say, no. So they're saying no. That is what they behave like. And it's very unfortunate that is the only alternative that we have for as a political party in this country. Very, very unfortunate. They talk about healthcare, but when they got into office, they were the ones that stopped the building of the clinic. That kidney clinic that was being put in place by Mr. Terry Forrester, the same Mr. Terry Forrester who now sits with them comfortably. Very unfortunate that all they see to do is object. They have no foresight, no insight. And that is why under them the country was stagnant, because they don't know about growth and development. And it's very unfortunate. I mean, it's about time that we start to silence these things. You don't want to silence the voice of people. But at some point, we have to say enough is enough with the negativity. Tell us, how do we move forward from here? How do we, I mean, very unfortunate that a young person that is looking to be a representative, that is looking to be in frontline politics, is saying that Grenada is not ready for renewable energy. I mean, what kind of backward statement is that? What kind of unfortunate statement is that? We have to make ourselves ready. That is how development happens. It doesn't just fall in our laps. We have to have good leadership with insight and foresight to see these things and make it happen. It doesn't just, we don't wake up in the morning and just be ready for renewable energy. And talking about what will happen to the sun, Ron? I would really like you to answer that question. What will happen to the sun and the wind that would make it impractical for us to have renewable energy? I heard the statement and I cringed because in my mind I was wondering, well, maybe the sun will blow away, or maybe there'll be a rainstorm in space and the sun go out. I was trying to figure out what are the possible scenarios where the sun would no longer be able to produce renewable energy. I mean, it's laughable, but that is just what they have reduced young minds to, making these kind of ridiculous statements. And while I might sound a little upset about it, I am a little upset because I am expecting young people to come out with something better. Don't just settle for the old status quo because you feel like, well, we want a chance now, so let's just join with the NDC and just try to get the NNP administration out of the way so we can just say all the stupidness they're saying too, and that is going to change it. It will not. If you want better, then make suggestions that are practical. Nothing ain't gonna happen to the sun. The sun is fine. We have to make ourselves ready for development. You can't want development and still be afraid to take chances that would help us develop as a people. I mean, come on, man. We have to do better than that. We have to do better than that. So, as I said, tomorrow we are going to have our Prime Minister here. He's going to be speaking with us, our first interview with him for 2021 as we look forward to where we go now in 2021 in an environment with COVID, what our country is going to look like. What do we do now? We will speak to him tomorrow, try to get some more insight. He is going to be here in studio with us. So yes, you guys are going to have an opportunity to call in with your questions. Guys, we have come down to the end of our time. But as we say here every day, in whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe, be secure. We always want to be talking with you here at Hard Talk. And we do not ever want to be talking about you. It's been a pleasure. Please do enjoy the remainder of your day and stay tuned for the National Report. Have a wonderful day, guys.
Finance Minister says government had the required authority to repurchase shares from WRB. We'll have details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Monday, January 18th, 2021, I am Rikisha St. Louis. Government's transaction involving the repurchase of Grenlex shares in a settlement agreement with WRB was legitimate through the U.S. $63 million settlement, which is U.S. $12 million less than the arbitration award. Government recently regained control of the 50% shares sold to WRB in 1994. Government also acquired the 11.6% shares which WRB purchased through an affiliate company and which was used to plow profits back into the hands of the company and its affiliates rather than into critical, ongoing capital investment to maintain and improve Grenlex generating capacity. During a meeting of the lower house on Friday, Minister for Finance, Honorable Gregory Bowen, explained that the authority is vested in the Public Finance Management Act, which enables the government to conduct such transactions. He said under the Act, the Finance Minister or the Attorney General can make payments to settle outstanding claims. According to Minister Bowen, the recent transaction with WRB was in keeping with the provisions of the law.
The payment was legitimate. There were those who came to say that you should come here, hold a public, hold a committee, standing orders committee, etc., etc. Well, we did that already because the authority was there, Mr. Speaker, for us to so do. The authority was there because this was already passed in the House of Representatives, in the Parliament for that matter, Mr. Speaker. Section 42(1)(a) and (b) of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 provides that where money is required to be paid to the government by an order of the court or by an arbitration award, the minister may, on the advice of the Attorney General, the Accountant General, and the Director of Audit, settle the claim and may, in writing, direct the Accountant General to pay the amount in settlement of the claim out of the consolidated fund.
He said finances that were allocated for projects and programs in 2020 that had to be placed on hold due to COVID-19 presented an opportunity for government to move capital expenditure around to make money available for the Gren Lake repurchase. The Finance Minister explained that because of the provisions under the Public Finance Management Act, government did not have to return to Parliament to move the capital expenditure.
We voted a sum of money, and because the section in the Act gives us room to move capital to capital, yes, and we can move recurrent to capital once the vote is there. You don't have to come back to Parliament, you move recurrent expenditure to capital. In other words, when we formulated this, the IMF and the World Bank, they envisage, and we say it is right. That is why we are here today making so much progress. Before, you could have taken from capital and put there. So you take all the money that will build your growth and you put it on in recurrent and you see you go to nothing. You cannot do that now. If you don't want to do that, you have to come back to Parliament. Now you can go the other way. The minister can go there. The warrants, whether it was called special warrants before, it's no longer called special warrant. But you can move once Parliament has approved a vote, you can move it.
Agriculture Minister Honorable Peter David says government must address the cost of energy to realize the true potential of the agro industry. He said one of the major barriers to development within the agriculture sector is the cost of electricity. During Friday's sitting of the House of Representatives, Minister David emphasized the urgency for government intervention to make renewable energy more accessible and the overall cost of electricity more affordable.
One of the major impediments to agro-industrial development in this country is electricity cost. Mr. Speaker, unless we get a handle on energy costs, we will go nowhere with agro-industrial production. We have to ensure through these actions, Minister of Finance, that we are able to keep prices in such a way that agro-industrial development can be enhanced. Energy cost is a major impediment to that. In addition to that, food prices. Energy, again, plays an important part in food prices, be it the use of pumps on the farms, the use of electricity at the abattoir. Throughout the agricultural sector, energy plays an important role. Therefore, as Minister of Agriculture, I want to welcome the attempts by government to ensure that we can manage energy prices.
He explained by repurchasing the WRB shares, government is simply protecting the developmental objectives of the country.
This government, in acting the way it's acting, I do not want to go back into all that was said earlier, is acting in a way to protect the developmental objectives of the country. Water, electricity, healthcare, education must be provided. And in doing all of that, energy runs through all of that, and that is why the state had to intervene. Grenada, Mr. Speaker, is such a case.
This is the National Report. The news will continue after the break.
Protect yourself and our community from COVID-19. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. If soap and water are not available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 70% alcohol. Use a tissue when blowing your nose, sneezing, or coughing. Immediately discard the tissue properly and wash or sanitize your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Let's do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. To stay up to date, visit the Government of Grenada's webpage or the Ministry of Health's Facebook page. For more information, contact the Ministry of Health's hotline by calling 53-VIRUS. This has been a public service announcement brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
Welcome back. The Ministry of Tourism and Civil Aviation and the Grenada Tourism Authority, GTA, have jointly launched a hotline to facilitate travel-related inquiries from visitors, tour operators, travel agents, and returning nationals. Ria Murray, Communications Officer of the Grenada Tourism Authority, spoke to GIS via telephone. She explained the aim of this recent development.
We know that the situation is fluid as it pertains to what's happening in the world and COVID-19, and things changing rapidly. But the whole intent of this travel hotline is to assist travel agents, tour operators, visitors or returning nationals who have general inquiries about our entry protocols, or they need guidance on where to stay or where to go during a visit to Grenada, Carriacou or Petite Martinique. So it's just making this information more readily available, and we know that the human touch, actually speaking to someone on the telephone, can really assist in ironing out any doubts that someone may have.
The hotline can be accessed via 3 numbers. Toll-free USA number 1-888-251-1732. Worldwide 1-213-283-0754. And for callers on island, 440-0670. The communications officer noted that there has been a shift in the operating time for the on-island hotline number.
With this new hotline launched, the time has moved from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So we have wider coverage there. And after 10 p.m., people also have the option to leave a message. So it's greater coverage in terms of the hours. And as I said, it's just making all the information readily available if you're a travel agent, tour operator, visitor, or returning national.
Finally in the news, the proposed idea of an ecotourism project by one farmer on the western side of the island has shown some promise, and after consultation with the Ministry of Agriculture, a technician recently did a walkthrough offering his recommendations. We get more in this report.
Farmer Philip David, owner of Bocage Farms and Trades, believes that his idea of ecotourism and a botanical garden effect can put a new perspective on farming. David and his team have occupied the 5-acre plot at Bocage Estate for the last 2.5 years.
But also to have a productive botanical garden where we'll be producing for markets, marketing board, local consumption, internal consumption, and for visitors coming here too.
David believes that his idea cannot become a reality without the expert advice of technicians from the Ministry of Agriculture. Last Thursday, an 8-member team did a walkthrough of the farm at Bonaire in St. Mark to seek out the practicality of the idea. Chief Extension Officer Randolph Shez was a member of the team.
I had put together a small team and we had a meeting with him face-to-face meeting, and he presented his plans to us. And his plans looks good, but what we are doing here today, we are walking the floor, call it that way, where we are visiting his farm, and as we go along, he's telling us his plans, and then we are making our recommendations as we go along.
According to David, the plan is to have a totally organic farm with a variety of fruits.
We are also in the process of developing new strains of existing plants. For instance, we have dragon fruits, we have sorrel, we have about 4 or 5 different types of mangoes, we have 4 different types of oranges, we have 3 different types of grapefruits, things like that. We also have grapes here, red and the green grapes. We have all sorts, Bajan cherries, etc., etc., etc. So we want our visitors to come here, sample the fruits, sample products in the land, and then also sample the cooked version of these fruits, because we'll be cooking on site also, so they can actually literally choose their meals, choose their salads, things like that, pick it off the trees and bring it in and produce it from there. And they actually, so they're eating farm to table basically.
Acting Chief Land Use Officer Trevor Thompson offered his observations and recommendations going forward.
The area was abandoned for a number of years, so the present crops that are cultivated, most of them are in very poor condition, especially the cocoa. Very poor drainage, so we have a lot of waterlogging. So that definitely needs to be rehabilitated. Now he has to begin to really look at what we call an agricultural farm plan to see how he wants to recultivate the land so that it is done in a systematic manner, that it's not just planting because you have the land. But if you want to cultivate cocoa, we must see like an area for that. If you want to do fruits, there should be an area for that, as well as bananas, etc. Of course, we will have some intercropping. But I think he has a good vision for the 5 acres, and I think in 5 years' time, you come back here, it will be transformed.
David is one of many farmers who receive technical advice and support from the Ministry of Agriculture.
That story just ended the national report for today, Monday, January 18th. On behalf of the entire news and production team, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name,